Thank you. First of all, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for attending this today. I would first like to thank Dr. Lee. She's the one has been doing research with me the whole past year, and it's been a great opportunity to actually present this today with you guys. So let me start off by introducing to you guys the first thing I'm going to present is about the intersection between agriculture, technology, and ethics. Okay, so one of the most obvious change during the history of mankind is the development of agriculture, and that includes land. So there are three distinct periods of development in agriculture. The first of all, it's center of community. So it all begins when land was first seen as a place just to gather around, to play, and just to learn. And human only used it as a place to gather around. So during that time, space needed for land is really limited and it's really small. So slowly, as time continues to move on, land starts to become property. We see it as, see land as a place of protection, shelter, food, and others. So lastly, which is today, we actually see it as land as business, as profit. So not only just for property, but a sense of business. So we demand more land as we continue, as times continue goes by. So as you can see, the distance increases as times goes by, and that's because at first it was a place of community. So we don't really need much land as everyone pretty much share lands. And today, people actually not only just need land as, just a place to stay, but they just buy more lands just to make profit out of it. So the distance eventually increases. So on the other hand, trust level decreases at the same time. So at first, everybody trusts each other and say like, oh, this land is just for us to play, to share. But right now, today, everybody just see land as to use it for their own individual profits. So therefore, this change actually sparks the question of ethics. So how do we actually integrate ethics into the world of agriculture as we are keeping up with the technology? So as you can see, I was explaining it before. This is the first stage, and that's the second, center of community, and then that's property, and the last one will be just for profit. Okay. Moving on, I would like to explain the different ethics that we are going to mention later on. So the first one is called justice and fairness approach. So it actually explains like how fair is an action. So does it treat everyone the same way, or does it show discrimination and all those stuff? And secondly, it's utilitarianism, which means maximizing overall happiness. Third is deontological approach, which actually defines like everyone is born with a right. So like there's animals' rights, you have a right, I have a right. And the third is pragmatic approach, where we actually say it's like, can my decision be actually published in a news headline, and something like that. And the fifth one is virtue and ethics approach, where we assume that there are certain ideas towards which we should strive. So basically, personal characters is the main focus. And last but not least is the feminist approach, by taking care of the most underprivileged group, like consumers, women's rights, and all the other, and children's rights. So this research is an ongoing research. We are not finished, but throughout this year, we actually have we use both methods, where it's qualitative and quantitative methods. So we review literature from 1967 to 2018, which is this year, from 4 disciplines of database, which is legal, business, science, and humanities. And also during this 1 year of time, we actually conducted a few in-depth interviews. Dr. Lee and I actually get to interview with a few farmers and practitioners from DC, from Florida itself, and Connecticut, and other states. And we actually find a lot of information out of them, and through their experience, we actually get to conduct a few analyses and results. Last but not least is the survey. We have not conducted a survey because this is still an ongoing research, but we would definitely like to distribute surveys to farm owners and respective business owner in the future. Okay. So this is our literature review. So as we are searching for more database and searching for more answers and results, we actually use 3 main keywords, which is agriculture, agri, star, techno, star, and ethics. As you can see, we found 72 from humanities, 72 database from humanities, and we reviewed 15. And in science, without using the keywords, there's like 5,000 database we have to go through. But with using the keywords, we have 22. So that kind of refined like what we are trying to focus on, and we reviewed 18 of them. And business, we go through ProQuest Center database and Business Source Complete. So they have 90 and 40 reviewed, 21 and 5 out of them. And last but not least is legal, which is from the legal form and LexisNexis. And this is the amount that we actually reviewed. Moving on, it's the research questions. So we actually got these research questions from the publisher called Thomson, P.B. Thomson, and he's a very well-known agriculture publisher who actually have a lot of great ideas and research and results. So we based on his journal, which is called Agriculture Ethics Journal, and we took 6 of his research questions. So this is the main 6 questions that we actually ask when we interview farm owners and practitioners. The number 4, 5, and 6 is actually the main research questions. We focus more towards 4, 5, and 6, which is what criteria should be used in determining which technologies are acceptable for use in food and agriculture. How shall we protect against a race to the bottom in wages, working conditions, and environmental standards? And number 6, what should be the limits of intellectual property rights? So these 3 questions are the main focus every time when we interview a farm owners or a business owner. Next, so I'm going to present like 5 major cases where technology plays a part in the agriculture sector and how we actually integrate ethics into these cases. So these cases are most often brought up by interviewers when we interview them. So I'm going to present you the 5 main cases. The first one is going to be about machine use, and the second is going to be about precision farming. Second and third is going to be about precision farming, and the fourth and fifth is going to be seed and gene research. So the first case is about machine use. So right now, there's adoption of farm equipment, and big companies like John Deere, they have been developing new machine use in the agriculture field. So these improved machines actually help farmers to actually lower cost of production, increase efficiency and productivity, and also help consumer at large, as price decrease and consumer gets to benefit out of it. And that's based on the ethical approach called the utilitarianism. On the other hand, it increased existing farm workings training and enhanced skills availability for the industry, which is based on the justice approach. However, if we flip to the other side and we think about it, so yes, these machines are great, but at the same time, it actually causes unemployment and job loss, and it reduces billable work hours. So if you think about it, yeah, it's really great at one point, but on the other side, it's actually causing unemployment rate. So how are we going to deal with it? And that's based on the feminist approach. So what we implement is actually, what we suggest is actually government or states provide training for these displaced agribusiness sectors, especially laborers people who are actually going to lose their jobs. Give them training, make sure that they learn something new, so maybe in the future they can actually learn these new skills and bring it to benefit into this sector. So, case number 2, which is about precision farming. So precision farming is basically something like smart farming where farmers actually get to have precise measurement about water, nutrition, so that they would know like, oh, this is the right time to put this amount of water, and that's the right time to put that amount of soil or nutrition. So it makes everything to be so precise that it's just like 100% perfect. So it also allows us to maximize, allow farmers to maximize use of productive land. So at one point, it's the same thing as a utilitarianism. That lowers cost of production. As you save water and all this soil and nutrition, it lowers cost of production, and it definitely increase efficiency and productivity. So both growers and consumer at large are benefited. On the other hand, if we see it in terms of justice approach, so is it fair for the land to actually, who has a limited ability to fight for its rights? I mean, we have human rights, we have animal rights, but how about land rights or plants' rights? Do you ever think about that? So in terms of justice approach, people think that precision farming, yes, it helps us to maximize use of productive land, but what do you mean by maximizing? Is it until the extent that you cannot use the land, or is there a limit towards it? So that's where we come out, we think about justice approach. Is it fair to do that or not? And the ontological approach is, does the land have a right of its own? Case number 3 is also the same thing as case number 2, which is about precision farming. So as I mentioned earlier, that we get to have precise measurement about the crops and the plants, and that gives us the best timing for grower productivity. So it definitely raise efficiency, lower cost of production, and benefit large corporations due to economies of scales. So in order to avoid all these problems, such as what I mentioned before, like is it fair for the land to use it and all the stuff. So in America, there's something called the American Farmer Union. So they actually help small and medium farmers to sustain. So that's what we would suggest, like, hey, can you actually help these small and medium farmers to sustain, in this industry? Because only large corporations can buy this technology, but small and medium-sized farmer would not have the money to buy it. So how are they going to benefit it in the long run, since they couldn't buy this technology? And last but not least, is the government should also play an active role in supporting these farmers by giving out loans, or so they can actually have the opportunity to try out new agriculture technology. So this is what it looks like in a future farm. I got this from this website, and it actually shows a really great image that says that this is how, maybe in 5 years or in 10 years, this is how the future is going to look like in the agriculture sector. So we have drones going around the farms, and we also have robots in the field help you harvesting. I was reading this article the other day that it's amazing like how technology has been advanced, that drones can actually help you kill weeds instead of you, doing the traditional way, just plucking it out. So there's robots for you to do that right now, and they'll help you to water, they'll help you to harvest, and they help you to do the weeding. And drones are used to help you survey the farm. So whenever like, oh, there's a storm coming, or you just send out the drones and see how the crop is doing in the field. And there's something called the smart tractor, which is what I mentioned earlier in the first case. That's the machine used, where there's GPS installed in these tractors, so they can just move on their own, and that's why that will cause a huge unemployment rate. And behind the scene is going to be the farmers doing the farming data, so they just have to sit down and relax and just do data, and that's it. And that is how it might look like in 10 years' time. So moving on is case number 4. So case number 4 and case number 5 are the same thing, which is seed and genes research. So do you know that there's actually a research where they actually put plants on the surgery table and they cut it out and remove the genes and put another genes in there. And that is what they're basically doing it right now. So they're doing it so they can manage diseases because there's a lot of diseases out there right now. So they try to remove bad genes and insert another gene, like an animal gene or unknown gene, into that plant so that, it can go against to that disease. So based on a deontological approach, is it a violation of plants' rights to edit their genes without their consent? So, if we go to the hospital, we definitely need our consents to even inject anything on us. How about the plants? Do they even have their own rights to do that? So in terms of pragmatic approach, we found out that they are actually not that resistant to diseases for more than X number of years. And they will only be beneficial in the short term. So ultimately, they become a weaker plant. And on the bright side, we definitely lowered product loss and it enhanced productivity. The last case I'm going to discuss is the same thing, which is also called the seed and gene research, where they do crossbreeding. They innovate, doing crossbreeding so that they can innovate a better products. So most likely companies are going to benefit from this as it raises efficiency, productivity, and also can lower prices for the consumer and increase profits for businesses. So it benefits large corporations, but it's the same thing. If we do crossbreeding and all this stuff, eventually these plants are not going to be resistant to diseases for X number of years, and they will only be beneficial in the short term. So that will just make them become a weaker plant in the long run. Okay, so for implication, we suggest that there should be more forum for discussion and a more debate regarding the limit of technological deployment in agriculture. We should understand the non-harmful use of technology before even implement all this technology into the field. And secondly, there's always been a continuous conversation between the first group, which is groups who view that biotechnology discovers favorably as mercy of God. So people think that, yeah, biotechnology is an act of mercy of God. But there's another group of people who actually is from the member of religious rights that actually say that, hey, isn't that like, doing all this gene research, isn't that pretty much playing God? So are we playing God, or is it an act of mercy of God? So it's still a very continuous debate that both parties still arguing right now, and we shall see what's going to happen in the future. So what had happened within this 1 year? So Monsanto and Bayer, which is Monsanto is an American company and Bayer is a German pharmaceutical company, they are both finally merged together. They have planned to develop a global seeds and biotechnology hubs. So the proposed acquisition, it's around $60 billion, had made both of these companies the world's largest integrated pesticide and seeds company. So this deal gave Bayer control of the company most closely associated with the rise of GMO food. So as we all know, Monsanto doesn't really have a great reputation, and combining forces with Bayer, which kind of gave them both a great opportunity to do R&D, but at the same time, it lets you think about, are they really doing this for profit? Do they actually think about ethics when they are developing this new product, or they're innovating these new plants or new seeds? And same goes to Syngenta and ChemChina. So ChemChina has take over gave Beijing more influence over many of the seeds and chemicals it needed to feed its swelling population. So what I'm trying to say today is that what are the real objective of these, companies that merge together? As you can see in the picture on the right-hand side of the corner, that both hands are shaking together. Is it mainly for profit and R&D? Would they even consider the ethical implication as they conduct R&D or develop a new product? Thus, this is our reason and objective behind this research topic today, which is to understand the intersection between agriculture, technology, and ethics, with the goal of informing policymakers, generating insights for sustaining best practices in the field. As we stand one step back and ask ourselves, yes, technology is great, but how can ethics actually play in a role too? And that's all for today. Thank you. Do you all have any questions? Hi.
So with genetically modified seeds and everything,
Mm-hmm.
would you say that some of the ethical issues could be overlooked because there's evidence that they help with world hunger, and that's such a big issue?
Yes, that's one thing. Like, as I was doing research, that's one thing that they say GMOs actually helps with world hunger and stuff. But at the same time, if you think about GMOs, so they're actually inserting like something unknown, or well, GMOs, and there's something called a GE, which is genetically engineered seeds, and they are actually inserting a new gene into that plant, and it might save world hunger, but at the same time, they did not tell you what's the side effect of having that food, you know what I mean? So it's really still a long debate, and it still became a huge debate right now in EU. And yep, that's all I could say. Is it really true that it can save world hunger, but at the same time going through the long run, how would that affect us? How would that affect our body? You know what I mean? So, thank you.
If I may answer your question, I think the GMO will definitely use the point of saving world hunger as their proposition for doing all these research to push the productivity, reduce the slack, and all those potential natural disaster that might cut into profits, right? On the other hand, I think there are also current debate or long-term debate about, do we actually not have enough food, or is there a distribution issue about the food supply? And so I think that is a point that people may want to be aware of. We're probably very aware that we have been accused as one of the major probably advanced economies that waste a lot of food too, right? So even within Palm Beach County, we say there's a lot of food hunger, right? But then if we redirect, a lot of the resources that possibly was really the root problem, I think, will be also what we want the public to be thinking more about. And really, I think one of our major objectives is to arouse more public awareness and debate on potentially very safe use of technology in the agricultural field. On the other hand, there might be deployment of technology in the field that might be pushing quite a bit to the limits of ethics. And as consumers, what would you be asking, the government or the USDA to do for you in terms of the labels getting clearer, really, or what type of clarity do you really want? Source of food, where does your food come from? How much information do you want that is supposedly fair, makes sense, and not necessarily increasing too much of the cost? Also, I think those are some of those questions that we want people to be thinking about.
Is there any more? Yes.
I just have a quick question. Are you doing this as part of an independent study, or did it come out of like a business research methods?
Well, I'm taking business research method right now, and whatever I'm studying is actually, it's not an independent study, it's just a research that Dr. Lee and I decides to do, to create awareness and stuff. But whatever I'm doing right now is actually kind of helping me in my my industry. Like, I might want to pursue in agriculture in the future, I don't know, but it does kind of help me because I'm studying big data right now in business research method, and I kind of get to, by using that course, it actually helps me a lot through this research as I'm going through like qualitative and quantitative data, and that's a lot of stuff going in there. And does that really answer your question? Yeah, okay.
So leadership and ethics is part of
Yeah.
Gen
Yeah.
F for all previous students.
Oh, good, good. Thanks, Stephen.
Is that all? So thank you guys so much for attending this today. It means a lot to me. Thank you so much. And thank you, Dr. Lee. And that's it.